Blake are with me. They're coming to Newbury Corn Exchange 26, and we're just trying to find out the Glenn Miller date. We'll find out in a moment what the link was there, just so you've got a bit of fodder on stage in case you dry up or run out of songs.
Thank you.
But what about new stuff? When you sit down, is it sort of a balance? Do you just sort of pitch stuff in and say, well, let's give it a try, let's not give it a try? I mean, because you've got to keep moving. I mean, the fans want a basis of what they know with a hint of something new.
Precisely right. The last album we did, you just actually heard a track before that one called Beautiful Night by Paul McCartney, which was a song that we'd never known and was brought to us by a producer. And the Blake tradition has always been to do covers, like electric prom covers. Yeah. And actually the last album's got 8 completely original tracks on. One was called So Happy, which was actually on Radio 2 a few months ago. So it's always a challenge, and it's important for us as musicians as well as creatives to be making new music, doing the arrangements, and like you say, for the shows as well, to keep them.
The biggest balance really for us is choosing stuff that will work live and that people want to hear live, versus will get us on the radio. And that is a very, very tricky balance to do, and I'm not sure we've always achieved it over the last 7 years. But it does mean that we have a very large repertoire to draw on for live shows, and that really is. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's our main income.
We could do a 4.5-hour show if we wanted to. Not that anybody would sit through it, but it's 4.5.
I wouldn't either. But one of the things that does change every show is that we, for the last 3 years, have got choirs to come and join us. We find a local choir, they come and join, they do a solo number, and then they do 4 numbers with us. And so that's always a changing element, and that's great for us. And we meet some amazing young and old singers. And in fact, when we're here, we've got Military Wives Choir coming to join us, which will be fantastic. So it's really important, because Ollie and I especially, we grew up as youngsters singing in choirs, and Stephen learnt in a karaoke bar about 7 years ago. But he's coming on well, and it's a lovely thing to get young singers in, especially when you see sort of Gareth Malone's programme and how popular singing in choirs is now. It's really cool to see.
I guess it's difficult for you guys because you must wonder sometimes with an album, maybe a bit like Russell Watson, quite where you fit radio-wise,
well, there isn't really a medium outlet for us on the radio.
Classic FM, maybe some of the songs, but they probably don't see you as classical. Pop, they don't see you as pop. So you could fall between stools.
Well, that's exactly why you have to end up doing singles every now and then to or remixing stuff that might be on an album in one sort of genre, and you remix it or do it with a different kind of backing or a different style so that you can work for the radio, and then you've got to pitch it as a single for the radio. But that is really hard. And also, I mean, the biggest difficulty a band like us has, which is effectively a live band that works really well as a live show, and you've got all the banter and everything else, is you just cannot transport that onto a CD. It isn't the same. It's never going to be the same. So what people take home, they have to take home the memory of the show as well, so that when they listen to it, they do it. And that's why we're trying to do more DVD recordings and everything else like that to try and get that over to people. But it's very hard. I mean, it's a high quality problem to have a good live career, and yet not everyone knows about it. That's why we come out here and try and.
I've always been a great fan of a cappella music, doo-wop stuff. I mean, it's so much wonderful stuff. And I watched the other night on TV some really old stuff. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles doing September in the Rain a cappella. It was just wonderful. It's sort of 4-part harmony stuff. I thought, wow.
But when it's good, it's one of them. And not only to listen to, but also to sing. It's one of the most exciting things.
Yes.
And I think it's really interesting with us because we sing such an eclectic mix of music. One, you realise that people generally love variety in a show. They love a variety of styles. But also, if you sing things well and musically, people will enjoy it. Everyone is people are a lot more musical than they're given credit for. And good singing, great harmony, it's something that seems to sort of touch people and really engages them, and that's why it's so enjoyable.
And it sounds like you're being really clever. You 3-part harmony with no instruments, people go, wow, that's good.
Yeah. Well, if you know what you're doing, it's quite easy, really.
We did a big show in London last night, actually, for Chinese New Year. And we did some of the very big bombastic numbers, and then we just did Hallelujah, just with 3-part vocals, nothing else. And it shut an entire room of very drunk people up very, very quickly. I think it's almost like voodoo or witchcraft or something. They don't know how we're doing.
It's like a very angry teacher talking to her class very, very quietly. Everyone shuts up because they almost get scared.
The quieter the voice.
Yeah.
I had a small part in an American film. 13th of December was the day we did it, and I had this part. I was a Liverpudlian banker, so I was, getting. He said, the director said, "No," he said, "Don't you get angry." He said, "You want to be frightening? Slow down, really slow." He said, "So okay." Get really menacing, take it down like that. People are really frightened. I said, "Gee, you're right, actually. Shouting's no good."
I'm scared now. I don't want to be in this room.
God, just remind me.
Glenn Miller was at the Corn Exchange in Newbury, 16th of July 2013.
Ah, look at that.
Okay,
Glenn Miller in 2013? That seems unlikely.
2013? It can't be possibly 2013. 16th of July 2013. Go back to the drawing board. It's almost impossible, surely, unless there's some news come through, has there?
He's back.
Is the news through from the channel?
I mean, there are comeback tours.
43, maybe.
I have to say, the second last sighting of his plane heading out to the Channel was from here, Woodley Aerodrome, just down the road.
Really?
His second last sighting, there was a plane spotter there, and he saw the plane, noted it down, seen once more at the coast. It was his second last sighting was here.
And then vanished.
Wow.
Yeah, God.
Yeah. Oh, well, until now, clearly.
Well, he's back.
His third last
Somebody has
sighting.
sequenced his genome and reproduced
This
him.
really is breaking news on the BBC.
He's back. Glenn's
And you
back.
were here at the time, which is great.
Yeah, indeed.
You never know what's going to
He's
happen.
actually our guest artist. We didn't want to break
Yes. Forget the military wives. I mean, Glenn Miller's a real coup.
Very much so.
Very good.
Mind you, he
Excellent.
might want a headline.
He might. We might have to support him. I've got a feeling.
I think what you should do, seriously, you should do in tribute, you should do a Glenn Miller track.
It's not bad.
Well, we'll get on
Little
it.
a
Glenn
cappella.
Miller a cappella.
I'll get my trumpet out. I haven't played it for a while.
That's true. In actual fact, Ollie hadn't used his trumpet in a show ever, and we had a big show earlier last year. It was 65,000 Filipinos, all of which had come to Hampton Court, and we had them all in front of us, and we had to do this song. First time we ever sang in Tagalog, which is their language, which is pretty tricky. And then in the middle of it, it actually had a kind of 30-second trumpet solo for Ollie. Humph and I just literally gripped the floor and thought, right, let's just see if we can get through this. He managed it.
I
so
bummed the first
worked.
two notes and then I was on it. It was fine. But it's very hard to stop singing and then pick up a brass instrument.
Yeah.
But it was definitely not Glenn Miller.
It wasn't Glenn Miller, but and it wasn't
was
Chet
highly
Baker either.
entertaining.
But it was something.
Chet Baker, he was a cool player.
He was a cool,
he looked very cool.
dude.
As well,
and Louis
Chet.
Armstrong, there's guys. It's really hard, and they would stop singing and just pick it up and carry on as though as though one was flowing into the other. It's very hard to do.
But what you guys don't realise, he was actually playing the trumpet in Filipino. You didn't appreciate that. And that's trickier than playing in English.
That's what those duff notes were.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Lost
No,
the
there's
translation, that one.
special Filipino notes that you don't understand here.
I
It's a
never-
different scale.
Yeah, third and quarter notes. And,
K sharp.
I never want to hear them again, that's all I know.
So good. I mean, hanging out with Woody Allen in New York, this must be a heck of an experience. It's
We were discussing this last night, actually. It's you sometimes forget it's your job. I mean, you've had this, having a long and fantastic career, you get to meet and hang out with some extraordinary characters, and it's one of the great privileges. And to find yourself in New York in this iconic place with Woody Allen, it's and then you come back and do a gig in Skegness, which kind of brings you back to earth. But
There's
it's
nothing wrong with Skegness for any Skeggers out there.
First place the
Old
Vikings
Skeggy.
landed.
Yes.
The Vikings came ashore, and it was the very first holiday camp. Thomas Cook.
Yes.
First holiday camp in Skegness ever.
They're still there. We did a
Yeah.
gig there
Are
last
you
year.
drawing comparisons between Thomas Cook and the Vikings?
Well, Vikings were there first before Thomas Cook. I think he beat him by a short head. But it's
chopped off
an
head,
extraordinary
perhaps,
place because it's all. I mean, it's all holiday camp and amusement park and chalets and caravans. The whole place.
It really is.
It's interesting actually. Over the years, as we've toured all over the UK, we've seen parts of it which I don't think other people ever have. We really have gone everywhere, and it's the most wonderful thing is the English seaside. Is it's still going strong. The theatres, many of them are still going very, very strong.
Yeah.
And they've got great attendances. I mean, it's actually there's a real tradition there which hasn't died away, and perhaps the way people might have thought.
But the quality is much better now at the holiday camps. I mean, you probably don't stay overnight, but I mean, no chalets anymore. They're actually quite smart.
Yeah, it's not Heidi High anymore.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
A friend of mine appeared at. She used to go and do talks as Marie Curie and go and explain how polonium was invented and all the rest of it and do a little talk for 20 minutes or half an hour.
Right.
And used to dress as a nurse and go and do it, which is great. You used to get paid to do it. And they booked her to do it at Skegness. And she got out on stage, and this is weird, about 1,000 people there. And she started doing it, and there was a lot of unrest and a bit of booing and a bit of murmuring. And eventually someone came on and dragged her off. And they said, "What the hell are you doing?" And she said, "What is what you booked me to do?" They thought they'd booked a Mariah Carey tribute act, and they booked Marie Curie. And she went out in her nurse's uniform and started telling them about polonium.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Poor old Marie Curie. I know a little factoid about Marie Curie. I don't know how interesting it is, but poor girl. Both of the Curies actually died from some form of cancer caused by radiation, because they used to fly around in their little plane doing these lectures, and literally from show to show they kept samples in test tubes in the top pockets of their jackets. And so after the years they both got these things, and it was one of the early reasons why people discovered that radiation caused cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's never made...
Someone's going to ring up and tell me that's complete rubbish, but I was told it at school by a science
If it is,
teacher.
please can that person phone in right now, because I would love to find out.
I'm sure there's more detail, but there we go.
So you invent something, then it gets you. I mean, that is terrible.
Yeah,
Any
very
anecdotes
sad.
about Blake we can pass? So you ever been booked in instead of somebody else, or turned up and said, no, they wanted Black singing Wonderful Life, and they got Blake?
No, but we used to get a certain number of people who'd book in at theatres in the UK, get there, and then they thought they were going to see Il Divo, which was always a bit disappointing for them and for us, I think. Do you know, we've been quite lucky. We've done a lot of gigs over the years, and there haven't been any real shockers anywhere. There was one that we did. What was it called? The big classical festival, Serenata, and it had been designed to be the largest classical festival of all time. And somebody forgot to do any marketing whatsoever. So both ourselves and Catherine Jenkins were in the middle of this incredible landscape, looking over the Dorset Hills. It was pouring down with rain, and there were 3 people in wellies watching from in front of the stage. It's quite bizarre.
It did go bust, unfortunately. It happens a lot. Promoters, doing.
But then you get, that offsets with, we've done 9 performances now at the Albert Hall, and that's an incredible experience every single time.
Yeah. Well, they do marketing there, don't they? So
they do.
I'm not sure they even have
Wellington's at the front there, you'd be seriously worried. A reminder, Newbury 26, the Corn Exchange. Glenn Miller, we don't know yet whether he's going to turn up or not, but there is a possibility, so get your tickets now. Stephen Humphrey-Ollie, thank you very much. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Mike.
Great to see you. Thanks for popping down to the studio. 12 minutes to 4.